Hey everyone, welcome to Logan's Mosh Pit. Glad to have you here. Today we're going to do another episode of the Breaking Down Songs series, the place where we take a look at some of my favorite songs from all kinds of different bands and analyze the lyrics, because when we do that we gain a deeper appreciation for the music we listen to. If there's a specific band you guys want me to talk about in a future episode of the Breaking Down Songs series, please leave a comment down below. I'll check your feedback. Today we're going to discuss my favorite song from 21 Pilots. So 21 Pilots, basically, they represent a trendy musical group. When they emerged in 2009, they came onto the scene, they set their sights on young adults. That was their zone. And they became profoundly marketable toward that particular cluster of people. It was unbelievable how rapidly their sales figures and fan base have climbed within merely a few years. 21 Pilots has always seems to be on the verge of cutting edge ideas and also putting a modern twist on songs. Even more impressive, they managed to shake up the industry with just two members, singer Tyler Joseph and Josh Dunn, the drummer. They started out with 4 members, then eventually went down to 2. So it appears to be a nearly unquenchable desire permeating across the community to play their music. Everywhere you go, you hear 21 Pilots music playing in the background. They've embedded themselves in our culture. So now I'm going to give you my favorite song off my top 5 21 Pilots albums, ranked from worst to best. So why don't we start off at number 5 with Regional at Best. From that album, I picked the electric track called Clear. Next up, at number 4 from 21 Pilots, the self-titled album, I chose the indecisive Air Catcher. At number 3 from the Trench album, I picked the scintillatingly spooky Neon Gravestones. At number 2, I chose the dysfunctional Holding On To You song. Finally, at the top spot from the Blurry Face album, the album that basically ignited my interest in 21 Pilots, got me interested in them. That was the first 21 Pilots album I actually listened to, so I have a soft spot for it. I'm a bit partial to Blurry Face. I picked the Vigorous Hometown track from that album. So between all those songs, the one I ended up going with as my ultimate favorite has to be Air Catcher. So that's the song we're going to investigate today. But first, I want to go into some background on the 21 Pilots album, which Air Catcher originated from. 21 Pilots must be their latest album, right? Just kidding, it's their debut album. In almost every circumstance, a band tends to name their first album after themselves, create a self-titled album to introduce themselves to the industry, get people familiar with who they are, except Def Leppard, who for some reason waited 35 years to come out with a self-titled album. I don't know why they did that. I guess they wanted to be sure everyone liked them first. So anyway, 21 Pilots was released at the tail end of 2009, so this was most likely the best Christmas gift that some kids got that year. This album was actually produced entirely solo. The band released this by themselves, which is pretty cool. It takes guts to do that. It definitely deserves respect when bands don't depend on a record label to produce their album. So this is the only album, like I mentioned earlier, that was built as a quartet. They originally had 4 members, and 2 of them departed from the band shortly after, only worked on 1 album together. Tyler Joseph scripted the vast majority of the lyrics and instruments. I bet Tyler Joseph could even turn a lid into an instrument. He has that much musical ability. A true prodigy. So this album peaked at 139 on the US Billboard 200 chart after it was released. It featured some flavorful titles and wacky lyrics which characterize what 21 Pilots was all about. They carry that with them for the rest of their albums as well. If I just describe this album in one word, I would pick diverse. It showcases tons of different themes, tons of unique lyrics and ideas, so that would pretty much sum up what the album stands for among other 21 Pilots albums. Diverse. Diverse would be a good way of putting it. So let's get to the lyrics of Aircatcher. We're going to go through section by section and interpret what the lyrics mean. Before we do that, I just want to remind you that this is my interpretation of the lyrics, what I think the lyrics mean. This is just my opinion. My opinion might be different from yours, and that's fine. We all hear these songs differently. There's no right or wrong answer here, so let's respect each other's opinions. I'll also put a link in the description down below to Aircatcher if you're interested. So let's start with verse 1. Verse 1 starts us off by saying, "I don't fall slow like I used to, I fall straight down. You've stolen my air catcher that kept me safe and sound. My parachute's what got me safely to ground. But now the cord's not working, and I see you staring me down." So, in the first verse, to sum up the first verse, the parachute and cord, I believe, refers as a symbol of a new situation, something the person in the song has never been in before. They walk into the scenario completely unprepared. They have no idea what to expect. Then the air catcher probably refers to a defense mechanism. This person likely obliterated the thing that protected them from getting hurt in the first place, but we don't know what the reaction will be yet. We just have to keep going to find out the rest of the details. Then we go on to the rather short chorus, only 2 lines. "I won't fall in love with falling. I will try to avoid these eyes, oh." So, in the chorus, they are actively refusing to take a chance on her because he's afraid of that leading to irreversible damage happening to him and his heart. Just not worth the risk, in his opinion. So he's going to do everything he can to avoid falling in love with her. Then we move on to verse 2, which goes, "I think you would beat the moon in a pretty contest, and the moon just happened to be the very first thing that I missed. I was doing fine on my own, and there wasn't much I lacked, but you've stolen my air catcher, and I don't know if I want it back." So in the second verse, he compares her beauty in his mind to something that makes sense. The moon. Thoughts are spinning out of control in his mind, getting away from him. Of course, he originally had no intention of putting happiness in someone else's hands. He was happy to fly solo. See what I did there? But fighting a battle against quicksand, that's what I think sums up this situation really well. like being stuck in quicksand. The harder you try to fight, the more you get sucked in, the harder it is to escape. You just gotta relax and let it happen. So he went from convinced in the chorus that he wasn't gonna fall in love with her, he was gonna ignore those feelings, push them back whenever they popped up in his mind, keep their relationship strictly non-platonic. Then he started to get doubtful. Well, maybe I'm not as sure about this as I planned. The air catcher goes from being a symbol of a defense mechanism to his heart. Stolen air catcher means she stole his heart. The more time that he spent around her, the more compromised his air catcher became. Then we go back to the chorus, slightly tweaked, not exactly the same as it was before. You still got the, I won't fall in love with falling, I will try to avoid those eyes. But then he also adds on, because I'm not sure I want to give you tools that can destroy my heart. So unconventional, but the tweak chorus just shows us that he is debating whether love or logic will tip the scale, which one will end up being the heaviness, the logic or the love, whether he will listen to his brain or his heart. They're at war with each other. Then we go on to the bridge. The bridge says, and I just don't say what you want to hear, so I'll write my fears, and I don't believe in talking just to breathe. Believe just to breathe, and falling selfishly. So the bridge basically confirms that he treats honesty as an important attribute to have, something to strive for. He reveals that he won't sugarcoat things if they end up in a relationship and lie just to please her, to make her happy. He will stay genuine to her, even if it results in arguments. That's a small price to pay for him. By doing so, this will ultimately elevate their bond between each other, make their connection become even stronger than it used to be. Then finally we get to the outro, which again mirrors the chorus, but not completely. It says, I won't fall in love with falling, I will try to avoid those eyes, followed by, but now I'm here to give you words as tools that can destroy my heart. So the outro tells us that he made up his mind. He's finally ready to open up and give the relationship a shot. He's weighed the benefits and drawbacks and finally decides, what the heck, I should give it a chance. So let's discuss the mood of Aircatcher. When you listen to Aircatcher, how does it make you feel? Well, encouraging mainly in the song, because you want to find out what happens. You keep egging him on, just go for it, man. Just tell her how you feel, surrender to the temptation you feel tugging at your heart. It sounds cliche, but you go back to that old saying, better to crash and burn than wonder what if. There's only one way to find out what will happen, and that's pursue a relationship. You don't want to look back and think, well, maybe I should have made a move. You don't want to live with those regrets. You just gotta take action right away. How about the most memorable line from the song? Which line stood out the most? Well, for me personally, it was, I don't believe in talking just to breathe. I think that line truly proves how wise Tyler was for his age to come up with something that deep. it doesn't coincide with his age. It seems like something that a far more advanced person would say. Advanced in age, that is. So how about the themes from this song? Well, the most obvious theme would be Tyler has to protect his things better. Maybe we should start a GoFundMe page for Tyler to get a safe, maybe. How about that? Because his stuff gets stolen all the time, so we got to do something about that. No. Seriously, though, the themes are, first impressions aren't necessarily a make or break dilemma. Sometimes the more you uncover about someone, the more you get to know them, your initial evaluation changes. The next theme was, eyes really are the gateway to the soul. You can judge someone's intentions by what you see in their eyes. You can tell if they're being honest or not, if you're wasting your time or not, just by looking deep into their eyes, because their true feelings will come out through their eyes. Finally, how a significant other can transform your life, make you leave your old life behind and start a brand new chapter in your life. You have to experience it for yourself to understand what that impact entails. So let's move on to the strengths and weaknesses of Aircatcher. One strength was the lyrics. The lyrics ticked all the boxes off. Everything good lyrics need to flourish. The lyrics were experienced, clever, cohesive, entertaining, vivid, relatable, and well thought out. You name it. These lyrics had all those majestic qualities that separate good songs from bad songs. Next strength was 21 Pilots really pulled out all the stops in the production. There was such a fluidity present between the vocals and the backgrounds. It all fit together perfectly. None of it seemed out of place. It all belonged there. Again, shows how much time they spent on each song. They didn't just wait until the last minute, scribble something down and think, oh, it is what it is. They actually put a ton of time and effort into these songs, and that makes you, the listener, gravitate toward the songs even more. The next strength was Tyler's voice. His voice came across as far more exuberant than usual. Maybe this was just beginner's luck, but toward the latter half of 21 Pilots' musical career, I have noticed on some songs that his voice sounds sort of flat. His delivery, like he's bored or not interested in what he sings about. I might be the only one, but his tone just strikes me as uninterested sometimes. Not with this song, though. This song was upbeat in his voice. You could hear all the emotions ringing clearly. So the final strength was 21 Pilots took a super common topic about relationships, a topic that has been used to death in music, one of the most prevalent topics for songwriting, something that has been around since the beginning with songwriting, and they took that bland topic and made it distinctly theirs. They sprinkled some of that 21 Pilots essence on top of it. So the only weakness that I can point out about this song was the cliffhanger ending. you might have noticed at the end where he says that, but now I'm here to give you words as tools that can destroy my heart, which tells us that he caved in. He gave in to his desires. He was willing to start a relationship with this woman, make her his lover, his significant other, but we don't find out anything after that. It leaves us hanging, makes us wonder, well, did the relationship last or did it fall apart? We have no idea, no way of knowing. Purely speculation at this point, so that kind of irritates me in songs when I listen to them. I want them to wrap up everything in a nice bow, answer all the questions, not leave any doubts in our mind. They didn't do that, but oh well. Minor complaint. So finally, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would I rate the replayability of Aircatcher? Well, I would give it a perfect 10 out of 10. I think that Aircatcher represents a song both fun to listen to, which is vital to attract new listeners, and equally deep. It takes a special breed of band to implement both those qualities. A song that has deep lyrics, but not so deep that you get all caught up in the message of the song. You don't enjoy listening because you're too busy trying to make sense of those thoughts, relate it to your life. You gotta make the song fun. You can't take songs too seriously. You also have to enjoy them to a certain extent. You definitely don't want to spend all your time reflecting on the lyrics. You can't just investigate the lyrics when you listen to a song. Then you miss the point of the song. You also have to enjoy what you hear. So that does it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. I really appreciate the support. I'll see you next time. Until then, rock on.